World Cup groups D, E, and F. My name's Corbin from the Parlay Club, and I've got the best bets and the plays the books do not want you knowing about. As always, drop a like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. In this video, I'm going to be going through, as I said, groups D, E, and F. If you want to see any of the other videos, they're all in, hopefully, the playlist that I've created on my channel. Did A, B, and C as a separate groups video, and then a futures video which went through who I think is going to win, some dark horses, top goal scorer, all of that fun stuff. So yeah, if you want to check that stuff out, go and check out the other videos on my channel. Let's get right into it, and we have to start with maybe the most debated group ever, I feel like. In Group D, we have USA and Paraguay, we have Australia and Turkey, and the US are plus 140 favourites for this group. Shall we start? Let's start with Turkey because I feel like everyone knows where I'm going with this. I love this Turkey team. I think they're so solid, all well and so well rounded. They have players that I really like in Yildiz, plays for Juventus on the left wing, and Arda Güler, who I'm a massive fan of. And I think that balance and well-roundedness is what's going to really pay off for Turkey here. Since 2024, have won all their games except a draw and a loss to Spain and a loss to Mexico as well. They beat USA last year, and I really love them to win this group. I think you can get plus 200 in some places, and I think that is. I hate the word value, but I feel like that is definitely the best value that I've seen out of any here. I mean, I make Turkey like a minus 120 favorite for this whole group. And you can also get them just to qualify from the group at minus 400 in some places. To me, that's a 5% max play worthy bet. There's just so much I like about Turkey. If you watch the previous videos, you'll understand my logic. But they're playing Australia, who I have as the weakest group, nation even in this country, weakest nation in this group. So I think that puts them off to a real good start. I think minus 130 is a solid play in that one, and that will probably make a client play as well. But it's that solidness in defense, that kind of like midfield who've got so much experience in the likes of Chananoglu. He's going to be orchestrating and then getting the ball to their front three. And as I mentioned, I really like Gula and their wide man Yildiz. I think they're gonna fly. Quite honestly, there's everything I love about this Turkey team, and I can't rant and rave about it as much as I want. I think everything. I think them to win the group. I think them to beat Australia, and I think them to qualify from this group. I think all of these are fantastic pieces. Moving on to Paraguay, who are third favourites for this group. I think they're just bang average, quite honestly. They seem to get decent results, but they really have a lack of goal scorers, which I think could cost them. Their defense is okay to good, kind of standard here. But again, defenses might win you a few draws or points here, but it's not going to take you far enough if you can't score goals. So I'm hoping Paraguay surprise me and beat the US because I would love that from Turkey to win the group standpoint. But I think you can really target unders in Paraguay games as well. I wouldn't be surprised for the US Paraguay to go. Let's actually have a look. Under 2.5 goals in this game as well. Match lines, total goals. Again, this under 2.5. You have to factor in the conditions. I don't feel like I mention it enough, but these conditions are going to be humid. These players are going to be defending for their lives, and if there's a lack of quality going forward, which I think both those teams have, I think it's going to lead to unders. So I have Paraguay probably in third place in this group, quite honestly. And then on to the big one, the US team. Wow. Where do I start? I think they are so overrated. It's unreal. They have injuries in key positions, particularly in centre back, a lack of match fitness for some of their superstars in quotation marks. There seems to be a load of bad vibes around the group. Pochettino's caused some unrest. They normally play a three at the back, which with wing backs, but unless Richards gets back to fitness, I think they're going to struggle. They've got a 38-year-old Tim Ream playing centre back, which just screams trouble in these conditions, and the pace is just going to be too much for him. Their goalkeepers are all awful, and they have 3-star players. I'll say stars for these. Pulisic, who is a good player, he's nowhere near the top 20, 30, 40, even 50 players in the world like some people have. Anthony Robinson, their left back, who will probably be playing left wing back, who I highly rate, but again, he's had an injury troubled year. And then Weston McKennie, who's having a pretty good year. I really think, from my research, I think a player called Pepe could shine, in my opinion. He should probably start. I really don't rate Balogun, so I think they're going to struggle. Again, I think they maybe could create chances through the likes of Pulisic, Robinson, and McKennie. I don't see who's regularly going to be taking those chances. Um, they've been really unconvincing in 3 games. They beat Senegal just about, lost to Portugal and Belgium, quite heavy defeats. They have beaten Paraguay and Australia, who are in this group with them in friendlies, but really close and like not massively easy wins. I haven't dug far enough to find if you can get this market, but if you could get USA not to reach, say, the quarterfinals or not to reach the round of 16, I think that's great. I really like USA to score under 7.5 goals for similar reason. I think they score. Let's be generous. Let's say they get 1 goal against Turkey. Let's say they score 1, maybe 2 against Paraguay, maybe 2 versus Australia. That's only taking us to really 4 or 5. I don't see where. And then the next round, I think they probably go out in the next round or the round after. I don't see how they get to 8 goals personally, but I'm there to be surprised. Another prop on the US team, Serginho Dest, under half a goal. I mentioned this in my futures video before the tournament. Minus 200 not to score a goal. He has 1 goal in USA's last game versus Senegal, and none in the 20 previous to that. Even if they push him forward from like a right wing back area to like a right forward area, I think he's going to be more as a trying to create rather than a goal scorer. So I quite like that prop as well. And then to round it off, Australia, who I think are clearly the weakest in this group by some way. You can get them not to qualify. They don't have it on here, but you can get them not to qualify at minus 130, and you can get them to finish bottom at plus 100. I think they're the worst of the 4. Again, I mentioned it, these bad teams, they're going to park the bus, counter attack. They play 5 at the back. I think you can also get them to score under 3.5 goals for the whole tournament. Again, I don't see any goal threat from them other than nicking a couple on the counter or a set piece. I think other teams, particularly in this group, have far too much defensively for them. And to lead on that, as I said at the top of this group, then if I like them to finish bottom and not to qualify, Turkey to win at minus 130 feels like an absolute steal. I'm shocked that line isn't nearer the minus 200 range, quite honestly. So, as I rank this group, I go Turkey in first, I go USA in second, Paraguay in third, and Australia in fourth. On to Group E, where we have Germany. I'm going to butcher this name. Curacao? Curacao. I'm so sorry. That is probably a horrible pronunciation. Ivory Coast and Ecuador. Let's start with the favourites for this group, which of course are Germany. I think Germany have the potential to surprise a few or go out really early. I really like their 3 attackers behind Havertz in Florian Wirtz, Musiala, Lennart Karl, Sane, Gnabry, those kind of players. They struggled at the start of the campaign, but really found form towards the middle end. Neuer is apparently or has been selected for this tournament. I don't like that. I think they should carry on with Baumann. I think Neuer's been shaky for over a year now, and you saw particularly with Bayern in the Champions League knockout stages. I don't think he's the same player. I also don't like Kimmich playing right back. I really think he's more of a midfield, but I like the spine of that team. The middle of the pitch has kind of got some good players. Not convinced with Havertz either. He's not the most convincing striker, but seems to get it done. I wouldn't be surprised if Undav, who is a German striker, could break out in this tournament and start ahead of Havertz, or come off the bench. I think him to score a couple of goals, a goal maybe two in this tournament if he comes off the bench, is a good shout. Good substitutes as well, as I mentioned, Gnabry, Sane, Leonard Carl. One of those three will come off the bench. Carl has so much potential. I really hope he does start because that would be quite exciting, I think. You can I had it down as minus 300 to win the group, so I think minus 230 is pretty good for the reasons that I will get onto in the next teams. The second favourite is Ecuador, and they should qualify comfortably. I think they are the second best team in this group. They play with a huge intensity to press. They've got a solid defense. Not even a solid. They may have one of the best defenses, I think, in this whole tournament. And then midfield as well, with Caicedo holding in the middle. But then you get to the forward line, and there's no goals. They're still relying on a 36-year-old Enner Valencia, who always seems to pop up at World Cups and score a couple of goals. I do like his. I think his name is Plata. I've watched him a couple of times. I think he could end up starting for Ecuador, and I think that would be a huge help. You look at their results; they've got 3 wins and 12, but then the other 9 all being draws. I think instead of playing a future on them to qualify, I think your better market is taking oppositions not to score against them. I think Ivory Coast, and again I can't pronounce their name, Curacao. I think neither of them will score against Ecuador. Another prop I was looking at for the Ecuadorians is Enner Valencia to be their top scorer. Again, if he starts these games, he's going to pop up with a goal or two. He's kind of got that fox in the box kind of mentality and ability, and he just always seems to get it done at these kind of tournaments. So that's why I have them below Germany in my rankings. Even though I think Germany are vulnerable, I think Ecuador's lack of finishing ability is really going to hurt them. Ivory Coast, I feel like we need to give Ivory Coast some respect. They've got a solid midfield and attack. They have players I like Diamande for Leipzig. He's probably going to get a big transfer this year. Nicolas Pepe. They've just got a lot of speed and power in that kind of forward to wide area. They just beat France, obviously, in a friendly. Had a decent win versus Curacao. Again, if they win that game against Curacao, should see them through in third place minimum. They were awful at the Africa Cup of Nations. They can be inconsistent, but I think, as I said, one big win versus Curacao could see them through in third place on goal difference with 3 points. And then finally, it doesn't take a genius to work out who I've got bottom here, and it is Curacao. They're not going to qualify. You could get, I found minus 1800 on them just not to qualify. I don't really need to explain too much. It's worth adding as a juice reducer. You can get under 1.5 goals minus 180. This again will be a client play. I just mentioned how good Ecuador's defense and midfield is. Germany are obviously going to dominate them. So really, I've got in my head under 1.5 goals in against Ivory Coast, which I quite like. So my table for group, is it Group E? It is Group E. Is Germany in first, Ecuador in second, Ivory Coast in third, and Curacao in last place. If you want to play that exact order, it's plus 200, and if you want Germany first and Ecuador second, in either order, actually, I forgot to say you can get, so that means Ecuador and Germany to be first and second is only minus 120, which I think is great. The only way I see that coming unstuck is if Ivory Coast win this game or outscore them versus Curacao. So, yeah, really like Ecuador to keep some clean sheets here. Let's just, going off topic, let's see what... Oh, I love this. Ivory Coast not to score against Ecuador is plus 124, and even the under 1.5 at minus 458. That is going to be a client parlay for sure. Quickly want to go over what we have for clients. So if you're asking what this means, these are the best bets and the plays that I recommend from all my research. These are the ones I recommend that you back with your own money. If you're new to this industry, client plays are what I've researched across multiple sports and recommend that you bet, and I give you a rating of how much you should bet on each one. If you want any more information on that, don't hesitate to drop a message or comment. I'm happy to explain or go over in more detail. Doing a promo code of World Cup, all one word, for $15 off a monthly subscription, which brings it down to $55, which is one of the lowest prices you will ever see it. That gives you World Cup futures, the match betting for the World Cup, any in tournament futures. Wimbledon starts in less than a month. We've got the rest of the grass season, motorsport, golf, MMA. We're flying in all sports at the minute, so would highly recommend jumping on. Again, up 130 units, more than that at this stage. So even if you're a $10 better, you're up $1,300, which is I couldn't ask for much more at this stage. If you're wondering what kind of plays we do, if you want to get a taste of it, if you come to my link me, which will be in the comments and the description, you can come here, you can get your socials if you want to message me on any of these. Spreadsheet, which will take you to my spreadsheet. If it loads, it takes a minute, so give it give it chance. It'll basically load and you can see any plays that there we go, all the plays that we've had basically since the start of the year, what kind of plays, what we recommend, how much. You can check all of that stuff out, so trying to be as transparent as possible. As I said, any questions, let me know, and use code WORLDCUP for $15 off a monthly subscription. Let's get into the last group for this video, which is Group F, which is Netherlands and Japan, Sweden and Tunisia. And I just have to say, I think this is the hardest group to call out of all of them. I am not convinced by any of these teams particularly. Let's start with Sweden. Again, not convinced with them. I mean, they have Isak and Gyökeres up front, but I just didn't feel like they get the service they need to really thrive. Can they play together? I'm not entirely sure, and the rest of the team is just very meh, to be honest. It's just not good enough. Particularly with those two strikers, they're very central strikers. They're not like I'm trying to think of a good example. They're not like a Messi that's going to create their own chances, or an Alvarez that has the pace and can link up. They're kind of very, what's the word? They're kind of like hold-up strikers. Well, particularly Gyökeres, who's going to, I think, start. I don't think Isak's going to be fit enough. Again, I think he's going to need passes in behind or crosses, and I'm not sure he's going to get enough of that. In qualification, they went 6 games without a win and then came through the playoffs against Ukraine and Poland. Again, I think they're going to defend and counter-attack, probably playing a 5-3-2, and if they can, starting Isak and Gyökeres up front. So interested to see if those two can link up and somehow create stuff between the two of them. On to Netherlands, who I believe, are the group favourites. Again, I think it's another big name that I'm not sure lives up to the hype. I like their defense and midfield, particularly their midfield, but up front, I just don't see the goals. They lost 1-0 to Algeria this week. I don't see the creativity or the clinical finishing ability. For them to have a chance, I really think Gakpo is going to have to stand up. And I think he's a poor player at the best of times. They're going to rely on Tijani Reinders, who's had a subpar year for City, to crash the box and try and get those finishes. And then Donyell Malen, who was shipped out from Villa to Roma and had an okay season. But again, these are kind of players that people think are going to cover the Dutch to quarters and semi-finals. I'm just not convinced. Some of their key players are injured or lacking minutes. The likes of Depay got an injury at the end of the year. I think, again, you can go under 8.5 goals for them for the whole tournament. I think they could get 5 or 6, maybe, if I'm being generous in this group stage. And then I don't see how they get maybe one more round, but I don't see how they get to 9 goals personally. Tunisia, to me, comfortably the worst team in this group. I mean, they drew 0-0 with Canada, lost to Austria, lost to Belgium with 2 red cards. It just seems like their discipline's out of the window. Really like this -125 on them to finish in last place in this group. Again, I mentioned the goals. Tunisia under 3.5 sounds solid against what I would deem as 3 solid defenses. Sweden's defense isn't great, but it should be enough to keep out the Tunisians. I don't think that Tunisia score against the Dutch, and then Japan's defense is really underrated as well. So for them to get to 4 goals, I don't see it. And then on to Japan, who I think are heavily underlooked. They've got no standout individual or superstar. They just seem to gel so well as a team. I think again their problem is that they're low scoring, but they have such a tough defense. They've gone 5 games without conceding. Did win a friendly versus Brazil. I think they beat England as well recently. You can get +300 on Japan to win the group, and that's where I like over the likes of Netherlands and Sweden. So my order for this group are Japan in first, Netherlands second, Sweden third, and Tunisia fourth. I really like that as a play. As I said, if you want all the client plays, what I end up deciding and going with for my client plays, you can come over to my DubClub. Promo code World Cup gets you $15 off a monthly subscription. That doesn't just include World Cup. You get Wimbledon, golf, any other kind of plays we have during this time. If you want to check out the other videos, I've already uploaded groups A, B, and C as a video, and then the futures, which includes who I think is going to win it, dark horses, player props, all of that kind of stuff. Check out the YouTube playlist below and stick around for the next videos because we'll be doing G, H, and I next. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you next time.